Hello and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's Wednesday Interlude, in which I shine the spotlight on Somerset Maugham. Somerset Maugham was born on the 25th of January 1874 in Paris at the British Embassy. Maugham's father, Robert Ormond Maugham, was a lawyer who handled the legal affairs of the British Embassy in Paris. Since French law declared that all children born on French soil could be conscripted for military service, his father arranged for Maugham to be born at the embassy, technically on British soil. Maugham said that his childhood was the happiest time of his life, but it came to an abrupt end when Edith Maugham, Maugham's mother, died of tuberculosis on the 31st of January 1882 at the age of 41, shortly after giving birth to a son who died the following afternoon. Maugham had only recently celebrated his 8th birthday. The early death of his mother left Maugham traumatized. He kept his mother's photograph at his bedside for the rest of his life. 2 years after Edith's death, Maugham's father died in France of cancer. So, at the age of 10, Maugham was sent to the UK to be cared for by his uncle Henry MacDonald Maugham, the vicar of Whitstable in Kent. Henry Maugham was emotionally cold, and this had a negative effect on Maugham. Maugham attended the King's School, Canterbury, which was also difficult for him. He was teased for his imperfect English. French had been his first language, and his short stature, which he inherited from his father. Maugham had developed a stutter that stayed with him all his life, although it was sporadic, being subject to his moods and circumstances. Aged 16, Maugham refused to continue at the King's School. His uncle allowed him to travel to Germany, where he studied literature, philosophy and German at Heidelberg University. During his year in Heidelberg, Maugham met and had a sexual affair with John Ellingham Brooks, an Englishman 10 years his senior. After Maugham's return to Britain, his uncle found him a position in an accountant's office, but after a month Maugham gave it up and returned to Whitstable. His uncle tried to find Maugham a new profession. Maugham's father and 3 older brothers were distinguished lawyers. However, Maugham wasn't interested. His family assumed Maugham and his brothers would be lawyers. His eldest brother, Viscount Maugham, enjoyed a distinguished legal career and served as Lord Chancellor from 1938 to 1939. However, the local physician suggested the medical profession, and Maugham's uncle agreed. Maugham had been writing steadily since he was 15 and wanted to be an author, but he did not tell his uncle. For the next 5 years he studied medicine at the medical school of St. Thomas's Hospital in Lambeth. As part of his training to become a physician, Maugham was required to attend the births of the poor of the East End of London. These activities inspired his first novel, Liza of Lambeth, a tale of working-class adultery and its consequences, which he published in 1897 at the age of 23. It was so successful that even though he was now a qualified physician, he gave up medicine to write full-time. But it was fully 10 years, and after writing another 10 novels, before Maugham became successful enough to earn a living from writing. However, the writer's life allowed Maugham to travel and to live in places such as Spain and Capri for the next decade, but the 10 novels he wrote after Liza never came close to rivaling the success of Liza. This changed in 1907 with the success of his play Lady Frederick. So initially it was as a playwright that he found fame and fortune. By the following year he had 4 plays running simultaneously in London, and Punch published a cartoon of Shakespeare biting his nails nervously as he looked at the billboards. In all, Maugham wrote 30 plays. The plays made Maugham very wealthy. His collected plays feature 18 of Maugham's plays, and they are very entertaining. One of my favourites is Home and Beauty, which was filmed as Too Many Husbands. There is a link to the film on YouTube in the show notes below. But at the height of his fame as a playwright, he gave up playwriting in favour of writing more novels. Maugham was among the most popular writers of his era and reputedly the highest paid author during the 1930s. This fame and wealth enabled him to buy a villa in the south of France. During the First World War he served with the Red Cross and in the Ambulance Corps before being recruited in 1916 into the SIS, the British Secret Intelligence Service, for which he worked in Switzerland and Russia before the October Revolution of 1917. He wrote about these experiences in his collection of short stories called Ashenden, the British Agent. During and after the war he travelled in India and Southeast Asia, and those experiences were reflected in later short stories and novels. Commercial success with high book sales, successful theatre productions and a string of film adaptations backed by astute stock market investments allowed Maugham to live a very comfortable life on his villa in the south of France, where he entertained the rich and famous. Maugham moved to France after the failure of his marriage to Ciri Welcome, and thereafter he lived with Gerald Paxton in his villa in the south of France, and then with Alan Searle until the end of his life. Whether it was as a playwright, a novelist, a short story writer, a travel writer, or essayist, Maugham excelled in all these activities, and towards the end of his life he was lauded as the grand old man of letters, and in 1954 was awarded the Companion of Honour by the Queen. W. Somerset Maugham died on the 16th of December 1965 at the age of 91. If you want to discover more about Maugham, then I can highly recommend two biographies of him. The first, called Willie, The Life of W. Somerset Maugham by Robert Calder, published in 1989, and the second, called The Secret Lives of W. Somerset Maugham by Selina Hastings, published in 2009. Both are excellent and contain a range of photographs. For an overview of Maugham's prodigious output, I can recommend The Pattern of Maugham by Anthony Curtis, published in 1974. For Maugham's writings themselves, I do not recommend starting with Of Human Bondage. Instead, try some of his shorter works, such as Up at the Villa or The Razor's Edge, or even his debut novel Liza of Lambeth. Also, Maugham was a master of the short story, and his 90-odd stories are hugely enjoyable. His works are available as collections. I own the selected novels of W. Somerset Maugham in 3 volumes, which contain 9 works selected by Maugham which he thought were worth preserving. The complete short stories of W. Somerset Maugham in 3 volumes, and the collected plays of W. Somerset Maugham in 3 volumes, which contain 18 of his plays. There is a link to some of his novels, plays and travel writing in Project Gutenberg in the show notes below. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any of W. Somerset Maugham's works and what you thought of them. So that's all, folks, but I'll be back soon with another BookTube video.